hustle, man. I be feeling like one of them ball playing, like Bird or Magic or something. But if I leave, the fans still gonna love me, man.
What's up, guys? Trilogy here. Today we're doing another Lord of the Rings tier list with the conclusion of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, the Amazon TV show. I decided to add it to our tier list. We already have a tier list on the channel if you want to check it out that doesn't include Rings of Power content and stuff like that. It just has the 6 movies, but this basically tier list and ranking is going to include all 7 basically things. And at the bottom, surprise, surprise, I actually didn't hate this as much as everyone else did. Like, there were a lot of people complaining about it. I, of course, have my gripes, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone else is making it out to be. But when I was watching our number 7, which is going to be Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, it just didn't capture the fantasy that I felt was convened in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. It could be the switch from a Hobbit perspective, which is the small underdog perspective, to Galadriel, which is like one of the most powerful elves in history. Like, she's like one of the first generation elves when they were crazy strong. Like, so the transition from a small feeble perspective to an almost undefeatable perspective could have been an issue with the translation. Of course, there were also other flaws in Galadriel's character overall. I'm not going to pull the Mary Sue card like everyone else does. I think in the lore, she's powerful. That's what she is. Like, Galadriel in the books is OP. If she's a Mary Sue, that's how Tolkien wrote her. If she's a Mary Sue, Tolkien wrote her. Amazon didn't do that. She's always been super strong in the books. It's just the plotting. Numenor is cool. That city is cool. Seeing the Great Wave in the dream, dark, but super cool. But this show was airing at the same time as House of the Dragon. And me, overall, you can ask anybody, I will tell you, Lord of the Rings is better than Game of Thrones. I will always go to bat for Lord of the Rings. But this show was directly competing with House of the Dragon. And House of the Dragon was winning. Even personally, I feel like House of the Dragon was a better watch than this show, and I don't even think House of the Dragon was as good as Game of Thrones. So it's like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and then Rings of Power. And Lord of the Rings is like the forebearer of fantasy. They should always be winning at everything, but I just didn't feel that. And with that said, that's why we have to put Rings of Power at the bottom. Up next is going to be The Hobbit. Probably not The Hobbit that you're expecting, though. I'm going to be putting The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies. I really didn't like Thorin's character transition. Although I know it's from the book, I understand. Still, I just didn't really mess with that twist. And then everyone's fighting and they're like, where's Thorin? We need Thorin. And then when Thorin finally comes out, he doesn't even help with that battle. He goes up the mountain, so like, what happened? And then Thorin is one dwarf. Like, I get he's a great warrior, but there's like 1,000 orcs. So this movie does stumble with the ending, closing everything out, that it was set up and everything. Like everyone literally says, everyone says this, that there should have only been 2 movies. If you haven't seen this yet, there's a YouTuber called Ed Boon, and I'll link his video down below. He basically did a super edit of all 3 Hobbit movies, and he removes a lot of fluff. He removes the love triangle. He removes Legolas, R.I.P. But, I mean, it really doesn't affect the movie. He removes the whole Sauron necromancer plot, which unfortunately does remove Radagast. I do like Radagast. But without those plot lines, the movie is almost seamless. Like, it's 4.5 hours still, so it is a still very long movie. But I watched it and I felt like I didn't really miss out anything as far as the Hobbit experience goes. I definitely think it's very cool. But number 6 on our list so number 7 is Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Number 6 is going to be The Hobbit, Battle of Five Armies. Next one is going to be The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. I like Smaug. He is one of the best Lord of the Rings characters. Benedict Cumberbatch did a great job voicing him. The dragon, we felt his terror. Although I felt like there were a lot of moments where he could have killed the dwarves and he didn't. I don't know if it's just bad writing or if he was just playing with his food, I do like how when he was losing, he was like, you know what? screw this. I'm just gonna go destroy Lake Town. They can't stop me. You guys might be able to get away from me, but they can't. So he got himself out of there, burnt the city, died. That's what happens. And up next is going to be our number four spot. Number four spot is going to be the first Hobbit movie. I like this movie even with the additional plot. I liked Bilbo leaving and trying to find his way out there on his adventure and everything. His interaction with the dwarves, we got to see a lot of that. When it was kind of, compared to the second two movies, this movie has a lower scale. Like, we run from the Grey Dwarf, not the Grey Dwarf, the Grey Orc, the one with the arm. We run from him, basically, the movie. And then the next movie, we fight a dragon. Like, it's like, here's an orc, and then here's a dragon. And then the next movie, we fight 5 armies, which I feel like probably isn't as high as a dragon, but it's close. So the stakes in this movie are lower. I liked it. This was the first Lord of the Rings movies I had actually sat down and watched it for like my 14th birthday, and then I watched the next one on my 15th and the next one on my 16th. So this was really my first introduction of Lord of the Rings. Despite seeing clips of the older movies when I was younger, this was the first time that I had actually sat down in a theater and watched one of these movies. And maybe that's why it is the best one in my opinion. But even that said, still don't think it touches on our top 3. Our top 3, so starting at number 3 is going to be Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. I like Return of the King. It has a great fight sequence, especially if you watch the extended cut. The extended cut, I think it's better because we get some extra stuff added in there. I love extended cut on anything, so don't even ask me to justify it. I'm always going to say, yeah, watch the extended cut. Yeah, watch the extended cut. Yeah, watch the extended cut. They're like, so it takes the movie from 3.5 hours to 4.5 hours. Hey. I don't hear how that's a bad thing. I don't hear how that's a bad thing. Return of the King is cool. We do get the ring finally dropped out. We get some Frodo stuff while he's on the mountain. I do like the plot twist of Frodo doing all of that and then just deciding, no, I'm going to keep it because the ring is just that powerful. I mean, my man Frodo held it for a whole year. So, you know, I have to give him props. Got to see some cool stuff with Sam, Aragorn, everyone else got to do cool stuff. But it's not number 1 or 2 for me. Number 2 for me is going to be Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, which probably has one of the most boring names out of all of the Lord of the Rings things, but it has the battles of Helm's Deep. Battle of Helm's Deep, crazy boy. One of the best fantasy battles of all time. Even though this movie isn't number 1, I love the Battle of Helm's Deep. I could watch it all day, but it has other stuff in the movie that, despite having a good battle and everything, I just felt like it was more of a bridge movie. You know, besides the Battle of Helm's Deep, nothing else really happened. We got Rohan released, but, you know, not too much else happened. Gandalf came back, but that's pretty much it. So I love the Battle of Helm's Deep, not to be understated, and that's probably why this movie is above Return of the King, even though Return of the King has much more plot points that happen and develop in that movie. With Denethor and everything. But number 1 is going to be, you know, context clues, process of elimination. It's going to be Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Now I forgot the name. This movie is just like the Hobbit movie. It's more low scale compared to the other ones. Like, we have a super battle at Helm's Deep. We have a super battle at Minas Ithil. I get the names messed up. You know the one. I'm not going to play with you guys. But in The Fellowship of the Ring, it's just a bunch of orcs in a forest. But we got to see my man Boromir, which I do mess with Boromir. R.I.P. Rest in peace, Boromir. It's just the ring, man. But I like this. We got our actual interactions between the dwarves, the elves, the humans, the hobbits, all of those races intermingling. We got Gandalf there. We got the Balrog scene in the mines. Full of a took, amazing. You just can't complain about The Fellowship of the Ring. Unfortunate that Amazon's show is so far down on our list. I'm definitely still going to tune in for season 2 when it gets here in like 3 or 4 years or whatever. But when you think about it, this is like the most expensive TV show in history. Sometimes the effects can be tuned down for a better plot. I didn't see the Sauron plot twist coming. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people say they saw it coming because he said he was a blacksmith. And I was like, you know, he was a blacksmith, you know. And then when he said, I found this on a dead guy. And you're like, you wouldn't think that he was telling the truth. And then the show, the lore doesn't line up for me, which I'm not a big stickler for the lore if it makes the story better. But personally, I don't think it made the story better in this instance, so that's why I'm against it. I don't have any problems with the hobbits appearing as the Hardfoots or any of the black people in there. I am black. Look, I'm black. I am always going to advocate for black people in media. But overall, I am hopeful that the next season will be better and they'll learn from their mistakes and maybe they can plot correct. But a lot of the plot points in season 1 have long lasting effects, so it's not going to be easy to retcon those changes. But with that said, those are my rankings for the shows and the movies. I hope you guys tune in for our next video. I'll catch you guys next time. Trilogy out. Peace.
I love the hustle, man. I be feeling like one of them ball playing, like Bird, Magic, or something. But if I leave, the fans still gonna love me, man?